A voice begins a transmission from space, testing the microphone over an image of Earth. Amidst the fiery destruction of a space station, the speaker confirms the recording is active. He identifies himself as Major Dong Yi, a crew member of the vessel known as the Atalante. Floating helplessly in the void, he prepares to deliver some devastating news to Earth. He explains the mission's grand purpose was the Arcadia project, humanity's plan for relocation. The reflection in his visor shows only chaos as he declares the entire plan a catastrophic failure. The narrative rewinds, explaining that an environmental crisis forced humanity to make a desperate choice. Their solution was a massive planetary migration, abandoning their dying home for the stars. Gigantic rockets, including the Atalante, were built to ferry them to their destination, Kepler 3265b. This promising new world was given a hopeful codename, one that meant paradise, Arcadia. He reports the Atalante was crippled by an unknown attack, with all hibernating crew presumed lost. He drifts helplessly, knowing Arcadia is lush and green but utterly unreachable for him now. With his final words, he asks Earth to remember the sacrifice of the Atalante's crew before ending the transmission. He briefly entertains the slim hope that others might have escaped the destruction, but he quickly dismisses the thought, resigning himself to his own imminent demise. Suddenly, an unexpected object bumps against his hand, startling him from his grim thoughts. He's stunned to see his own guitar floating right in front of him, a relic from his past life. Clutching the instrument, he remembers his personal mission, to finish his album upon reaching their new home. He reminisces about being in a band, a dream he carried from Earth to the stars. Surrounded by floating records, he laments the simple, beautiful life of music he's now lost forever. He grips the guitar, a final defiant connection to his shattered dreams. Deciding to go out with a song, he prepares for one last performance among the wreckage. A sudden jolt and a beeping from his suit interrupt his final concert. His display flashes an unbelievable message. An escape pod is just seconds away. He looks up in utter shock, a flicker of hope igniting in the darkness. An escape pod with its thrusters firing barrels directly toward him. The pod, bearing the Atalante's insignia, opens its hatch in a clear invitation to board. Without warning, the hatch slams shut, pulling him forcefully inside. The violent motion sends him tumbling backward, losing his grip on his precious guitar. An automated voice instructs him to secure himself as he realizes he's been rescued. The pod's system displays a single clear instruction: pull the lever to begin the descent. Realizing he can't die so recklessly, he grips the lever with a renewed determination to survive. The mechanism engages, launching the pod away from the debris field at incredible speed. It blazes like a shooting star as it plummets through the upper atmosphere of the new world. Below him, a breathtaking landscape of crimson flora stretches out, his final destination in sight. Just before impact, a braking system flares to life, desperately trying to soften the landing. The pod slams into the ground with tremendous force, carving a crater in the alien soil. Leaving a long scar across the field of red, the battered vessel finally skids to a halt. The landing was rough, leaving the pod's hull pierced and severely damaged from the impact. With a final burst, the hatch is jettisoned, exposing him to the dizzying pull of a new world's gravity. He gazes upon an endless field of red flowers, wondering if this surreal beauty is the afterlife. The reflection in his visor confirms this isn't heaven, but the very real landscape of Kepler 3265b. He has finally reached humanity's new home, the planet codenamed Arcadia. Now identified as crew member Dong Youngsoo, he begins recording his log, documenting his solitary arrival. His suit's sensors analyze the environment, reporting a temperate climate with a thin atmosphere. While scanning the horizon, his eyes lock onto a startling sight: another person in the distance. He cautiously approaches a mysterious, cloaked figure kneeling amongst the crimson flora. Overwhelmed with relief, he calls out, desperate to know if he's found another survivor. Suddenly, a viscous liquid drips down his visor as a crack splinters across the glass. He looks up in horror as a monstrous, skeletal beast reveals itself, lunging straight for him. The creature's massive, clawed limb swings down with incredible speed. It brings its razor-sharp appendage crashing down, aiming to crush the lone astronaut. Dong Youngsoo throws himself backward, narrowly dodging the devastating blow. He quickly regains his footing, landing gracefully in the alien dust. The horrifying creature is reflected in his cracked visor as he stares it down. He analyzes the giant arthropod, concluding that a direct confrontation is his only option. The monster's single, glowing red eye locks onto him with predatory intent. As the beast lunges for a second attack, he reaches for a tool attached to his suit. He unsheathes a survival knife, his last and only line of defense. Concealing the blade, he prepares to face the alien horror in a desperate fight for survival. He deploys a spike from his boot, anchoring himself to the alien terrain for a split second. The beast's powerful swing launches him helplessly into the air. He soars over the monster, narrowly avoiding its massive limbs as it strikes the ground. Sent tumbling by the force, he fights to regain control mid-flight. The creature rears back, its deadly, segmented tail poised to strike him down. With a flash of inspiration, he realizes his only way out is to go on the offensive. He expertly adjusts his trajectory, aiming to land directly on the monster's back. The creature roars in fury as he lands squarely on its head, catching it completely by surprise. To steady himself, he slams his knife into the ground, using it as a makeshift anchor. He scrambles up the beast's face, identifying its multiple eyes as the only weak point. The monster's eye reflects his determined form, locking onto its target. He winds back his fist, preparing to deliver a decisive blow to the creature's eye. His armored fist connects squarely with the beast's massive, unprotected eye. The creature recoils in agony, spewing alien fluid from its ruptured eye. As the beast thrashes wildly, he uses his boot spike to secure a new foothold on its leg. The enraged creature slams its powerful leg down, trapping him beneath its immense weight. Pinned under the limb, his expression hardens with grim determination. Suddenly, a targeting system from an unknown location locks onto the rampaging beast. The mysterious figure is revealed to be another person, taking aim with a powerful-looking weapon. A brilliant beam of energy erupts from the weapon, streaking toward the target. The energy beam strikes true, piercing the creature's armored head with explosive force. The beast stumbles back, purple fluid erupting from the fresh wound as Dong Youngsoo remains trapped. Despite the direct hit, the monster's remaining eyes glare with undiminished fury. His savior, a woman in a sleek red and white suit, charges into the fray, weapon at the ready. A second blast from her weapon sends the massive creature tumbling through the air, releasing him. The monster's limb, which had him pinned, now hangs uselessly as the beast is thrown backward. The woman's weapon reveals a bladed edge, which she expertly plants into the ground for a quick pivot. She effortlessly parries a flailing limb from the falling monster, deflecting the attack with her weapon. Seizing the opportunity, she thrusts her weapon directly into the creature's gaping maw. With a final powerful shove, she drives the weapon home, aiming to end the beast for good. With a firm grip, she prepares to unleash the weapon's full power. The device activates within the creature's mouth, its internal mechanisms whirring to life. A final, devastating energy blast erupts from within, piercing the monster's skull. The colossal beast finally collapses, and she calmly withdraws her weapon from the fallen creature. Dong Youngsoo kneels in the dust, watching his mysterious savior stand over her kill. He raises his hands, attempting to express his profound gratitude for the rescue. Without a word or even a glance, the woman turns her back and begins to walk away. Stunned by her cold departure, he's left with his hands frozen in midair. He reaches out, trying to call after the silent figure who is already disappearing into the distance. His suit's AI analyzes her behavior, classifying it as human-like but inexplicably hostile. He retrieves his survival knife from the dust, his only remaining possession. The mysterious woman finally stops, her helmeted gaze questioning if he's truly from Earth. Realizing they share a human-like form, he decides on a new approach. In a gesture of trust, he moves to reveal his face to the silent warrior. His determined expression shows his belief that this simple act will prove he is an ally. The woman watches him silently, a strange vapor escaping her mask. She plants her massive weapon in the ground, accepting his silent invitation. In a surprising turn, she begins to remove her own helmet. His eyes widen in anticipation, waiting to see the face of his savior. She removes her helmet, revealing the stunning and unexpected face of a blue-skinned alien. He realizes that in her eyes, both he and the monster are just different kinds of aliens. He questions why she spared him, suspecting it's due to their similar humanoid appearance. The blue-skinned woman observes him with a calm, unreadable expression. She offers him a small canister, a gesture he immediately views with suspicion. His mind runs through a list of dangerous chemicals the liquid could be. To communicate, she draws a diagram in the sand and identifies the liquid as water. She then introduces herself by name, Kai, while crouching by her drawing. Trusting her gesture, he prepares to open his helmet in the thin atmosphere. As he takes a drink, his mind flashes back to his pre-mission briefing. He recalls a lecturer advising the use of formal English during any first contact scenario. Following protocol, he politely thanks her for the water and returns the canister. He formally introduces himself as Dong Youngsoo, hoping she understands. Kai seems to misinterpret his words, repeating a similar-sounding but different name. The communication breakdown is clear as he struggles to convey a simple greeting. He remains hopeful that universal gestures will eventually bridge their communication gap. Sometime later, a vehicle kicks up red petals as it drives across the alien landscape. The vehicle is revealed to be a large transport, towing a crane through the fields. They've loaded the massive creature's carcass onto the trailer, hauling it away as a prize. As they travel, he reflects on the breathtaking beauty of the planet's endless flower fields. He learns the planet's name is Bumi, feeling a strange sense of luck to have arrived there. He soon learns a shocking truth about his new sanctuary. This dazzling planet is doomed with only 5 years left until its destruction. The crane carefully transports the head of the slain beast, a trophy of their hunt. He records a mission log, detailing his solitary survival and arrival on the target world. His log notes his first contact with the planet's inhabitants as he sits beside Kai. He grimly realizes that this world, much like his own, is living on borrowed time. Their journey ends at a massive, futuristic structure rising from the sea of red petals. The transport vehicle proceeds into a dark, cavernous opening at the base of the building. A colossal elevator system lifts the entire vehicle deep into the heart of the structure. They arrive in a vast, high-tech hangar, revealing the true scale of Kai's operation. His helmet rests on a platform before a colossal, imposing gateway. The hangar is filled with towering, bizarre, mushroom-like structures, emphasizing the alien environment. He watches from the ground as Kai moves with purpose on an elevated platform. She approaches a high-tech console, clearly in her element. Kai speaks into a communication device, reporting his arrival to an unseen party. Now back in his suit, he looks up, realizing she's discussing him. She falls silent, her expression unreadable as she waits for a reply. Inside his helmet, his gaze is sharp and analytical, trying to understand his situation. Elsewhere in the hangar, a glowing blade begins to carve into the monster's remains. Kai, having changed her clothes, expertly begins to process the creature's head. Kai pulls a dark, dripping mass from the creature's remains, her clothes stained with its purple blood. She deliberately tosses a slab of the monster's meat onto the hangar floor. Instantly, the bizarre mushroom-like organisms swarm the unexpected offering. He observes that these strange fungi behave like predators, eagerly consuming the flesh. Dong Youngsoo theorizes that these carnivorous mushrooms are a cultivated food source. With her work done, Kai signals for him to come with her. He walks across the hangar, carrying a bundle of his salvaged belongings. Kai wipes her brow, clearly exhausted from the strenuous task of processing the beast. Standing on the now empty transport, she holds the massive tool she used for the job. In a moment of clarity, she finally pronounces his name correctly and offers her thanks. The brief moment of understanding fades, leaving them in a silent stalemate. He realizes that despite her thanks, the language barrier remains a massive, unbreachable wall. Kai gestures for him to follow her, leading him deeper into the complex. She brings him to a new platform, attempting to explain something in her native tongue. He tries to respond in his own language, but his words are just as meaningless to her. Deciding to learn, he carefully repeats the alien words she just spoke. Kai seems to get an idea, turning to a nearby console to try a different approach. On a table, he discovers a collection of small, intricately carved animal figures. He picks up one of the carvings, impressed by the unexpected display of artistry. Showing her the small statue, he inadvertently opens a new channel for communication. She abruptly snatches the small statue from his grasp. Her reaction is one of pure confusion, leaving him bewildered. He immediately worries he's committed a grave offense by touching her artwork. But on closer inspection, he realizes her expression isn't anger, but complete bewilderment. He decides a compliment is in order, struggling with how to convey praise without language. Banking on a universal gesture, he attempts a smile, noting how unused his facial muscles feel. The resulting expression is less a friendly smile and more a terrifying, muscle-strained grimace. His attempt at friendship backfires spectacularly, sending her into a state of pure terror. He considers a thumbs up, but quickly dismisses the gesture, recalling its obscure Roman origins. The OK sign is also out, as he recalls it can be a deeply offensive gesture in other cultures. He desperately searches his mind for a universal symbol, settling on the shape of a heart. He reasons that the heart is a fundamental symbol of positive emotion across many cultures. With renewed hope, he carefully forms the heart gesture with his gloved hands. Kai's terror finally gives way to a look of utter bewilderment. He points to the carving and then back to his gesture, trying to link his praise to her art. He holds the pose, hoping this simple sign for good will finally get his point across. A glimmer of understanding finally dawns in her eyes as she processes his attempt. She gently places the small carving back into his hand, a silent acceptance of his compliment. Kai offers the statue to him, speaking a single clear word in her native tongue. He studies the carving, trying to decipher if Balaya is the name of the creature it depicts. He examines the small gifted carving, a token of their fragile truce. He offers a rare, genuine smile, appreciating the fine craftsmanship. His simple praise makes her blush, clearly unaccustomed to such a reaction. Taking the opportunity, he introduces himself by clearly stating his own name. With the ice broken, she eagerly gestures for him to see the rest of her collection. They stand side by side at the console, finally beginning a real lesson. A holographic image appears, confirming Balaya is the name of a long-necked creature. He connects the carving in his hand to the creature on the screen, the name finally making sense. Kai continues the lesson, introducing him to a feathered beast called a yerapa. Next, she shows him a stout amphibian-like creature known as a bangkong. The lesson continues with a bipedal creature she calls a rumpang. Next, she points out a purple lizard-like beast known as a cattle. Kai chatters excitedly about her art, but he remains silent, lost in thought. He internally notes her passion for animals while struggling to memorize the foreign names. He contrasts the docile creatures in her lesson with the one he was forced to fight. The memory of the hostile monster fuels his urgent need to identify it. She completely misreads his serious mood, thinking he's asking about her personal preferences. Realizing the mix-up, he pulls out his own device, deciding to show rather than tell. He presents the glowing screen to her, hoping a picture will finally bridge their communication gap. On the screen is a photo of a cat from his world, an animal he introduces as Kongdioki. He recalls a past lecture on the importance of using educated English for first contact. The memory of the lecturer's stern face emphasizes the absurdity of his current situation. He admits to himself that seeing a picture of his cat, Kongdioki, made him unexpectedly emotional. He struggles internally, nearly letting slip some very uneducated words to describe the cuteness. Kai misinterprets his mumbled thoughts, attempting to repeat a very colorful, broken compliment. Realizing his blunder, he quickly corrects her, clarifying the creature is called a cat and vowing to be more careful. He concludes that her people must have a deep, inherent love for all animals. Seeing her captivated by the photo, he realizes the joy of seeing something you love is a universal feeling. This thought triggers a memory of his own passion, a well-loved guitar from his past. Kai calls out his name, stopping him with a new device in hand, ready for the next step. He reaches into the armored vehicle, pulling out a personal belonging he thought was lost. To his relief, he finds his old guitar, miraculously still in one piece. Kai calls his name, completely puzzled by this strange wooden object. He decides to show her his passion, strumming a chord on the instrument. Perched on the vehicle, he introduces her to the concept of music, a piece of his own world. His gloved fingers pluck a melody, the first notes of a song filling the quiet hangar. Suddenly, a small, wheeled drone zips into the scene with surprising speed. Kai's expression turns to alarm as she shouts his name, trying to get his attention. Her face hardens with concern, realizing the potential danger he's in. The little robot races towards him, its screen flashing a warning as it issues an urgent alert. The drone desperately tries to call out his name, its digital face twisted in worry. His music session is cut short as the small robot skids to a halt, demanding his attention. He looks down, completely baffled by the sudden commotion and the robot's frantic cries. Kai turns to the drone, her expression shifting from surprise to alarm as she asks what's happening. The robot delivers its urgent message, its panicked tone translating across the language barrier. It reveals a vision of another person in grave danger, confirming the severity of the situation. Kai's eyes widen in horror as she recognizes the name of the person in peril. Without a moment's hesitation, he leaps from his perch on the armored vehicle. He moves with a sense of urgency, the friendly atmosphere instantly replaced by tension. Landing solidly on the ground, he prepares to face the new, unseen threat. The trio rushes towards a heavy red door, their mission clear. The drone confirms the person in danger is named Ingress as Kai works the control panel. When the door fails to open, she turns to him, her expression questioning the malfunction. He recalls her earlier stress at the comm station, realizing her world is in just as much chaos as his. With the panel unresponsive, Kai resorts to trying to pry the massive door open herself. He inspects the frame, noticing the rail is bent, a clear sign of damage. Staring at the warped metal, he speculates that a powerful impact must have jammed it shut. She strains against the unmoving door, her desperation growing with every failed attempt. He watches her struggle, realizing her plan is to open it with sheer brute force. Exhausted and unable to move it, she kneels as the drone extends its mechanical arms to assist. The drone's mechanical arms press against the door, but their effort is completely useless. Its digital face droops in failure, realizing it's not strong enough to help. The little robot then offers Kai a small canister, a desperate last-ditch idea. He calls out her name, finally deciding to intervene in their futile attempts. With a commanding presence, he gestures for them to move, ready to handle the problem himself. He grips the edge of the massive door, preparing to unleash his own formidable strength. Kai's jaw drops in utter disbelief at the incredible feat of power she's witnessing. Inside, Ingress chokes and gasps, her body reacting violently to something in the air. Broken canisters lie on the floor, their spilled contents revealing the source of the toxic environment. Kai immediately kneels beside the fallen Ingress, her face a mask of concern and urgency. Kai desperately calls for the drone, her face etched with panic. The small robot, Hiji, approaches with 2 medical vials secured on its back. Hiji's mechanical hand selects a blue vial, offering it as a potential antidote. Kai quickly takes the canister and activates it, ready to administer the treatment. She tears open Ingress's uniform, revealing the severe irritation covering her torso. Without hesitation, she presses the device to Ingris's chest, releasing a cooling blue substance. The antidote works instantly, neutralizing the red affliction and restoring her natural skin color. Ingris confirms she's all right, clutching her chest as she recovers her breath. He watches the scene unfold, processing the rapid and effective medical intervention. Now fully recovered, Ingris stands ready in a complete spacesuit, prepared for the mission ahead. The scene shifts to show Kai tending to a frail older man, with Heiji watching over them. She helps the weakened man to his feet, supporting him as they prepare to move. Meanwhile, the protagonist's face is shown, his name finally revealed as Dong Youngsoo. He turns as the small drone Heiji zips over to him, its antennae wiggling. The two stand together in the vast hangar, an unlikely pair awaiting their next move. Heiji takes the lead, guiding Dong Youngsoo through the facility's empty corridors. The little robot suddenly stops, demonstrating a peculiar slingshot-like function with its ears. It then points a mechanical arm towards a brightly lit doorway, signaling their destination. The drone formally introduces itself, confirming its name is Heiji. Dong Youngsoo calmly acknowledges the introduction, officially meeting his new robotic companion. Heiji extends a mechanical arm, completing its formal introduction to Dong Youngsoo. The small robot then dashes ahead, leading him further into the facility. It stops abruptly, its hand transforming into a holographic projector. An image flashes to life, displaying a strange, crimson-colored world. Heiji identifies this desolate planet as a place called Bumi. Dong Youngsoo's expression hardens as he stares at the alien landscape. The drone continues its briefing, introducing a new term, Shide. A second image appears, showing a brilliant orb of light referred to as Panon. Dong Youngsoo's attention, however, remains fixed on the red world of Bumi. Heiji adds another name to the list, Nide, as it continues to explain the situation. He repeats the word Panon, connecting it to the brilliant orb he just saw. The drone continues its lesson, introducing the term shade with a focused expression. Dong Youngsoo quickly deciphers the alien language, understanding the basic concepts of their world. Heiji's briefing takes a dark turn, showing a meteor labeled Ragbat hurtling through space. The next image is even more grim, displaying a skeletal face identified as Maut. He correctly translates the new terms, realizing the briefing is about meteors and death. Having absorbed the grim vocabulary, he takes a determined step forward. His gaze shifts, a new understanding dawning as he connects the pieces of this deadly puzzle. His attention is drawn to two blue-skinned survivors, one holding a stringed instrument. Heiji now communicates with the other survivors, using its projections to explain the dire situation on Bumi. The blue-skinned man, Ingris, and Dong Youngsoo formally introduce themselves to each other. Dong Youngsoo takes a heavy step forward, his boots grounding him in the grim reality. He immediately questions the situation, his face a mask of intense focus. Ingris explains that a meteor fell, a fact Dong Youngsoo deduces from the few words he knows. Heiji's mechanical hands transform, its fingers becoming sharp, precise instruments. The small drone then projects a massive mushroom cloud explosion, illustrating the catastrophic impact. Dong Youngsoo stares into the holographic blast, his face reflecting the fiery devastation. Ingris confirms their worst fears, stating the meteor is headed directly for their planet, Bumi. The other survivor adds to the grim report, linking death, their world, and a new term. Dong Youngsoo latches onto the unfamiliar phrase, questioning its meaning with a puzzled look. The blue-skinned survivor uses a strange visual to represent their son, Panon. He then connects the sun to their world, establishing the relationship between Panon and Bumi. Heiji demonstrates an orbital path with its arms, introducing the term for a year cycle. Dong Youngsoo rapidly processes the alien language, deciphering the timeline of their crisis. The survivor confirms the final piece of the puzzle, revealing the number 5 is the key. He delivers the catastrophic verdict. In 5 years, a meteor will destroy their entire world. Dong Youngsoo stares in disbelief, the sheer scale of the impending doom overwhelming him. He looks down at his guitar, wondering what his mission could possibly be in the face of planetary extinction. A flashback reveals his own awakening, identified as crew member 67, undergoing the final thawing procedure. The system demands his name, rank, and mission, showing the moment his own journey began. The system issues a chilling ultimatum: confirm his identity or face disassembly. The robotic proctor offers to provide other personal items to aid his failing memory. Dong Youngsoo stares blankly, grappling with the fundamental question of who he used to be. With his memory a blur, he clutches his guitar, the only familiar object in this strange reality. His fingers find their place on the fretboard, instinctively forming a sequence of chords. He realizes that while his past is a void, a single, persistent melody remains. A memory surfaces of him playing alone, dressed in a Space Force uniform. His friend Dean appears in the memory, enthusiastically rapping along to the tune. The scene shifts again, showing a younger version of himself playing the same song in a simple boarding house. Another memory emerges of a girl named Maria, singing along to his melody for her broadcast. A memory reveals his lifelong dream, performing on stage for 100,000 people. His guitar was always his constant companion, the strings a familiar comfort. The flashback returns to the robotic proctor, demanding he state his identity and mission. With his memory restored, he confidently identifies himself as Major Dong Youngsoo, maintenance chief of the Atalante. The system then requests his self-designated code name, the final piece of his identity. His eyes burn with intensity as he spells out the name that truly defines him. Back in the present, he declares his code name is Rockstar, fully reclaiming who he is. He reaffirms his mission to protect the crew and maintain the ship, his hand resting on his guitar. A grim realization dawns on him. He's the only crew member left, forcing him to question the Atalante's fate. He reasons that such a massive ship couldn't be completely gone, forming a new objective to find its engine. The two blue-skinned survivors listen intently as he speaks about the fate of their planet, Bumi. He declares with unshakable resolve that their world will not die, insisting his mission is far from over. Ingress stares back, the 5-year death sentence for his planet still echoing in his mind. Dong Youngsoo counters their despair with a bold promise, vowing that Bumi will not be destroyed. He kneels beside Heiji, ready to lay out the complex method that could save them all. Holding up books on language and science, he grapples with the immense challenge of explaining human knowledge. The drone Heiji interrupts, pointing to a notebook and addressing him by name. Dong Youngsoo turns, puzzled by the little robot's sudden intervention. Heiji proposes a new strategy, questioning him about the concept of human writing. The drone immediately begins the lesson, flipping to a page that visually links an apple to the letter A. Dong Youngsoo watches intently as the drone uses a picture book to establish a common linguistic ground. Heiji rapidly cycles through the alphabet, associating letters with simple universal objects. The two native survivors observe the strange lesson, their faces a mask of cautious curiosity. The lesson advances from single letters to full sentences, using a simple illustration to convey a complete thought. The drone breaks down the sentence structure, isolating each word to ensure its meaning is clear. Dong Youngsoo acts as the live model, pointing to his chest to demonstrate the concept of I. He then mimes the act of chewing, physically translating the verb eat for his alien pupils. To illustrate food, he holds up a real sandwich, providing a tangible example for the word. He gives the small drone a look of confirmation, signaling that their communication method is working. A close-up reveals their teaching tool, a basic English picture dictionary, bridging the gap between two worlds. The small drone painstakingly sounds out the word dictionary, its face a mask of intense focus. With incredible speed, Heiji flips through the pages, absorbing the entire human language. Dong Youngsoo watches with a grim expression, pinning his hopes on the drone's rapid learning. Heiji slams the basic English textbook shut, its lesson on human language now complete. The drone confirms it has mastered human grammar and directly asks what Dong Youngsoo needs. Dong Youngsoo reveals he has a plan to destroy the meteor, but Heiji dismisses it as impossible. He grimly explains that returning is not an option, as his own spacecraft has been destroyed. Heiji's expression softens as Dong Youngsoo insists that the ship's remains hold the key to stopping the meteor. The blue-skinned survivor, Ingress, sternly tells the drone to listen to what the human has to say. Heiji relays the request, informing Dong Youngsoo that the survivors want to hear his plan. Dong Youngsoo presents a science manual, his new tool for communication. He flips open the book, getting straight to the chemistry section. The lesson begins with the universal language of science, the periodic table. He taps on the table, indicating this is the foundation of his plan. The drone begins to process the elements, reciting their symbols aloud. Heiji continues its rapid-fire recitation, absorbing the chemical alphabet. Dong Youngsoo breaks down the formula for water, starting with 2 parts hydrogen. He follows up by showing the single part oxygen required for the compound. The drone confirms it understands, revealing that Bumians have the same concept for water. Dong Youngsoo stares in disbelief, questioning if their scientific knowledge is truly aligned. The drone Heiji stumbles upon a familiar term in the human science book, Appleton. It recognizes the atomic diagram as a particle that humanity apparently discovered first. Heiji's processors whirl in disbelief at this startling revelation. The book defines Appleton as a form of dark matter, a concept that baffles the little drone. Dong Youngsoo confirms Appleton is a substance invisible to light, only affected by gravity. The drone is floored that humanity cracked the code of dark matter, a feat far beyond Bumian science. He brushes off their confusion, insisting that knowing how to use it is all that matters. A flashback shows an Atalante crew member asking his team about these mysterious Appleton particles. The rest of the maintenance crew looks on, completely clueless about the subject. An official steps in, explaining the topic is classified before offering a brief explanation. The official begins his lecture by establishing the basic structure of an atom. He then introduces Appleton, a bizarre element where antimatter positrons orbit a dark nucleus. This unique particle, he explains, is humanity's only discovered form of dark matter. He dramatically reveals the massive engine of the Atalante, which runs entirely on this mysterious substance. A younger Dong Youngsoo, part of the crew, points out that they're only looking at a real-size model. The official singles out Dong Youngsoo, confirming his identity and department before the inspection. From a higher vantage point, the official looks down as Dong Youngsoo raises his hand among the maintenance crew. He orders the maintenance sections to come forward for a detailed inspection of the engine model. During the tour, an engineer points out a specific symbol near an entrance hatch to Dong Youngsoo. The flashback reveals Dong Youngsoo's hand pressing the Atalante logo, which acts as a hidden release for a panel. The engineer reveals a hidden manual inside the panel, containing a specific set of instructions. A younger Dong Youngsoo, part of the crew, inquires about the nature of the mission within the manual. The engineer shocks the crew by revealing the manual contains the ship's self-destruct sequence. Dong Youngsoo looks utterly bewildered, unable to comprehend why such a protocol exists. The engineer clarifies that the dark matter engine doubles as a devastating antimatter bomb. The official elaborates, explaining their destination, Arcadia, is an Earth-like planet with potential for life. He illustrates this by showing a parallel evolutionary chart for humans and the potential Arcadian inhabitants. The official then lays out a dark protocol. If the Arcadian civilization is a threat, they have a final solution. That solution involves detonating the engine to inflict irreparable damage upon the rival civilization. Back in the present, Dong Youngsoo grimly states that this terrifying contingency plan is now his current mission. The drone confirms the engine is an antimatter bomb and turns its attention to Ingress. Ingress silently processes the grim reality of the humans' plan. The Boomian leader rises, bestowing a new ominous title upon Dong Youngsoo, Mautamara. Dong Youngsoo learns that Maut means death, beginning to piece together his new designation. With grim certainty, he deduces the full title means he is an agent of destruction. Ingress presents the human with a choice, putting the fate of their worlds in his hands. But the human refuses to be a pawn in their decision. He boldly declares that the choice is his and his alone to make. The Boomian survivors and Hiji watch in silence, awaiting his final verdict. Dong Youngsoo announces his decision. He will work with them to find the engine. Ingress, the Boomian leader, listens intently to the human's declaration. The drone Hiji questions why Dong Youngsoo would reveal such a critical secret. He explains that sharing the truth is the only way to earn their trust. Ingress confesses she wants to use the very power humanity possesses. Her goal, she reveals, is to wield that power to save her own world, Boomi. Now in his spacesuit, Dong Youngsoo extends his hand, offering a pact. The Boomian leader pauses, contemplating the monumental decision before her. She firmly grasps his hand, sealing the alliance between their two worlds. Ingress's expression hardens with grim determination, her path now chosen. Dong Youngsoo meets her gaze, his own face reflecting the weight of their pact. Ingress's hand tightens on the human's arm, a silent, firm gesture. She holds his gaze, ensuring he understands the weight of their agreement. The drone interrupts the tense moment, demanding to know the meaning of a human curse word. Dong Youngsoo calmly explains it's just a term for when emotions run high. Hiji silently processes this new, very human piece of data. With newfound resolve, Dong Youngsoo declares it's time to put their plan into action. He affirms his commitment, his expression resolute. The little drone places its own hand on theirs, officially joining the unlikely alliance. A flashback reveals a shocking mission detail. By the time they reach Arcadia, 3,000 years will have passed on Earth. A younger Dong Youngsoo listens as the speaker outlines the potential for a worst-case scenario back home. The official warns that after 3,000 years, Earth's civilization might have severely regressed. A younger Dong Youngsoo listens, understanding the gravity of their mission to preserve humanity's legacy. His notes from the briefing, however, are filled with grim doodles, betraying his inner turmoil. The official presents the Deep Space Message Composition Manual, their only link to a distant future Earth. In the present, Dong Youngsoo begins recording an official log 10 days after his arrival on planet Boomi. He settles into a makeshift room in Bunker 16, documenting the start of his new mission. His first order of business is to report on the modifications needed for his spacesuit. He demonstrates how the suit's bulky outer layer can be removed to adapt it for exploration. A Boomian helps move the heavy equipment, a clear sign of their new alliance in action. The drone Heiji consults a manual, inquiring about upgrades to the suit's power and breathing systems. Dong Youngsoo questions the logic, pointing out the suit's outer layer is crucial for exploring the surface. Heiji proposes a clever workaround, attaching a respirator to a Boomian helmet for better compatibility. Seeing the sense in this, the human turns to Ingress to ask if such a modification is even possible. The drone translates Ingress's affirmative answer as the Boomians begin their work on the advanced suit. Heiji continues its technical assessment, inquiring about the helmet's built-in communication systems. With the comms confirmed, Dong Youngsoo suggests they can strip those components from the suit as well. The drone, now deep into the manual, points to the water tank and asks about its temperature regulation function. Suddenly, Dong Youngsoo clutches his head, wincing in pain as he confirms the drone's assessment. Heiji quickly deduces the problem, realizing the planet's atmospheric pressure is affecting the human. When asked about the difference, he reveals the pressure on his world is a staggering twice as high as on Boomi. Heiji relays the human's assessment. Adapting to the pressure will be a long and difficult process. To solve the immediate problem, Dong Youngsoo points out the suit's orange oxygen tank to Ingress. Ingress identifies the connected component as an oxygen filter, a key piece for their new plan. The Boomian leader decides they will dismantle the filter and repurpose it into a temporary respirator for the human. Now equipped with the makeshift breathing aid, Dong Youngsoo records their solution in his official log. He reports that the suit's modifications are nearly complete, with the final battery work finishing today. The log entry turns to his physical recovery, showing him exercising with makeshift weights to regain his strength. He notes that prolonged space travel has atrophied his body, making rigorous training essential. But rebuilding his body faces a significant hurdle, which he grimly addresses in his log. His only food source is a monotonous diet of alien mushrooms, a fact he clearly finds unappetizing. He notes that Ingress has forbidden him from eating anything else, forcing him to endure the bland taste for his own safety. His diet is a relentless cycle of mushrooms, whether they're roasted, steamed, or boiled. He realizes this isn't just his problem. The Boomians also subsist on the same meager diet, hinting at a planet-wide food shortage. Worried about his long-term health, he makes a note to prioritize finding alternative, edible options. His log entry shifts to another critical part of his new life: rigorous combat training. Ingress and Heiji introduce him to their greatest enemy, the Gurita, monstrous creatures that arrive on meteors. He immediately recognizes the monster from his first day and questions if the Boomians are still fighting them. The drone delivers a devastating truth: the war is already over, and the Boomians were defeated. Undeterred by their loss, Dong Youngsoo's resolve hardens, ready to face the fight ahead. With cold determination, he asks for one thing: a strategy to kill their shared enemy. Heiji lays out the simple but brutal strategy: target the Gurita's vital organs. The drone specifies key weak points like the brain and heart, aiming for catastrophic internal damage. Dong Youngsoo processes this, noting the creature's body structure is surprisingly similar to vertebrates. Heiji confirms his observation, clarifying that the monsters are, in fact, vertebrates. Faced with an array of alien weaponry, Dong Youngsoo asks for a tutorial, and Heiji introduces the basic Naga. The drone clarifies that a Naga is an electromagnetic launcher, what a human would call a railgun. Dong Youngsoo confidently handles the weapon, as Heiji assures him that ranged combat will be the easy part. Ingress warns him of the true challenge, the inevitable close-quarters combat when a Gurita charges. Heiji reveals that a Boomian named Langet will be his close combat instructor. Langet adjusts her breathing mask, her determined gaze signaling she's ready to begin his training. Langet takes a deep breath through her mask, her intense focus signaling the start of the lesson. Dong Youngsoo learns that while the Naga is effective at range, the real fight begins when a Gurita closes the distance. Heiji introduces the Terra Naga, a versatile railgun with a 4-round chamber and a mount for a blade. Langet demonstrates the core principle of their combat style. Every block must also be an attack against the Gurita's downward strikes. She shows him the upper stance, a specific block designed to counter the monster's powerful overhead attacks. The drone explains that by redirecting the creature's force, the blade can easily slice through its carapace. Dong Youngsoo observes carefully, committing the upper stance technique to memory. Seeing a diagram of various combat stances, he logically deduces there must be a lower stance for attacks from below. Langet dismisses his question, instead commanding him to mirror her movements and focus on the upper block first. He struggles to lift the heavy weapon, attempting to copy her form and begin his grueling training. Langet suddenly tests his block, her weapon clashing against his with surprising force. Caught off guard, Dong Youngsoo struggles to withstand the unexpected pressure from his instructor. Heiji explains this is a taste of real combat, an impact that no simulation could ever replicate. A smirk crosses Dong Youngsoo's face as he asks if he can stop holding back and fight for real. Langit confidently accepts his challenge, ready to face the full extent of his human strength. The drone chimes in, reminding them that the weapon is merely a training tool. Hiji then gives him permission to push it to its limits, even if it means breaking it. With his limits removed, Dong Youngsoo unleashes a powerful downward strike against his sparring partner. Langit meets his attack head-on, their weapons colliding in a spectacular display of raw power. His eyes burn with determination as he pours every ounce of his strength into the clash. Langit's eyes widen in disbelief, reflecting the shower of sparks as she feels the full force of his power. Later, a weary Dong Youngsoo records his log, noting that Boomians use stimulants for combat while he prepares for an expedition. He shifts topics, explaining that his deep space message manual instructs him to record and transmit songs back to Earth. The manual uses the famous Voyager Golden Record as a prime example for interstellar communication. He recalls how that record carried a curated selection of Earth's finest music and culture to the stars. Admitting his own musical taste is limited to rock, he resolves to record the few songs he knows by heart. He begins to play his guitar, strumming the chords to a classic song about a lonely astronaut. Langit walks in on his performance, surprised to see him following through with the musical recording. As she listens intently, he struggles to recall the exact lyrics to the human song. Undeterred, he decides to improvise the forgotten words, continuing his personal concert for an alien audience. Langit cuts his performance short, catching him off guard with her sudden appearance. She informs him that his custom spacesuit is finally prepared for the expedition. Without another word, Dong Youngsoo gets up and follows her out of the room. He pockets his recording device, his musical interlude officially over. Another Boomian greets him as he arrives at the equipment bay. Before him stands a massive AEMU, a specialized armored suit ready for deployment. He powers on the suit with a remote device, watching as the system boots up. A look of satisfaction crosses his face as he confirms the suit's engine is operational. He steps into the colossal frame, preparing to merge with the powerful machine. The suit's armored hand clenches into a fist, venting steam as it comes to life. A Boomian technician applies the final touches, welding the custom-fit armor. Now inside the suit, Dong Youngsoo feels the machine's power as steam vents from its joints. He stands fully geared up, admiring the successful modifications with the technician. The technician hands him the helmet, explaining the final test is simply to see if he can breathe. Dong Youngsoo secures the helmet, sealing himself inside the advanced combat suit. The helmet's life support system activates, and he takes his first breath of recycled air. Stepping onto the alien world, his suit's respirator vents into the foreign atmosphere. He takes a knee on the red terrain, spotting his first targets near a crashed vessel. His helmet's advanced targeting system immediately locks onto the two distant Gurita. Confirming multiple hostiles, he raises his railgun, ready to begin the hunt. Dong Youngsoo begins a silent countdown, preparing to engage the enemy. The scene flashes back to a Boomian commander, who also begins a count in a field of red flowers. A mechanical hand tightens its grip, ready for the final command. The countdown concludes, but instead of a shot, the scene cuts to the mission briefing. The team gathers around a holographic table as their commander outlines the operation. He points to a map displaying multiple crash sites that need to be investigated. Their first priority is to secure a critical radar base. The map highlights the coastal installation, a key defense against aerial threats. Their objective is to retrieve all tracking and satellite reconnaissance data from the facility. The commander confirms that this base holds the vital information they seek. The commander reveals a second objective, a mountain satellite base that might hold tracking data on the Atalante. He reaffirms their first stop is the coastal base, hoping it contains the information they need. Dong Youngsoo proposes they also search for visible debris from his crashed ship along the way. He explains that salvaging the wreckage could yield useful items for their mission. Langit looks intrigued, questioning what kind of Earth items he expects to find. He lists off potential resources like weapons, food, and most importantly, seeds. The mention of seeds captures Langit's full attention, her expression turning thoughtful. She excitedly asks if they might find cat seeds, while Dong Youngsoo can only offer a vague maybe. The drone interrupts with a final checklist, asking if they've loaded all luggage and extracted the human's blood. Dong Youngsoo confirms his own blood sample has been refrigerated and loaded as Langit smiles beside him. The drone highlights the strategic value of Youngsoo's blood, as he is their only human asset. With the grim reminder delivered, the drone wishes the entire team a safe mission. A final roll call begins, acknowledging Langit, who looks on with a confident smile. The commander Ingress is next, his expression stern and ready for the operation. Dong Youngsoo is the last to be called, his gaze fixed and determined from behind his mask. The narrative jumps back to the field, where Youngsoo is in position, observing the alien creatures. His helmet's display confirms the targets are acquired, calculating the perfect shot. He prepares to open fire, beginning a countdown to coordinate the attack. Simultaneously, the Boomian commander starts his own count from a different vantage point. The commander confirms a target lock, his focus unwavering amidst the alien flora. The commander's countdown continues, his focus absolute as he prepares to fire. He unleashes a powerful blast from his rifle, the energy crackling at the muzzle. A crimson beam lances across the alien terrain toward the unsuspecting targets. The shot finds its mark, striking one of the Gurita directly in its armored head. The creature recoils violently from the impact, its carapace shattering. Its companion roars in alarm, its massive maw wide open in a silent cry. The surviving Gurita immediately turn and flee, scrambling for cover in the distance. A nearby soldier lowers their massive blade, the initial long-range assault now complete. The creature's monstrous faces contort as they react to the sudden, violent attack. The commander shifts his focus, now preparing to engage the enemy in close combat. The remaining Gurita scatter, desperately trying to escape the ambush. Dong Youngsoo tracks their movement, questioning the timing of their next move. The commander sees his opening and gives Langet the signal to attack. From her position, Langet eagerly confirms the order as the creatures run into her line of fire. She unleashes a devastating volley of energy blasts from above, raining down on the hostiles. The beams find their target, piercing through the Gurita's tough exoskeleton with ease. Both monsters cry out, their bodies riddled with damage from the relentless assault. As one creature falls, another charges a soldier who stands ready with a massive blade. The soldier calmly prepares a defensive posture, anticipating the creature's overhead strike. From above, the scale of the confrontation is clear as the lone soldier faces the towering beast. Another soldier, a blue-skinned woman, watches the chaos unfold from below, her breath steaming with anticipation. Suddenly, she rockets down the cliffside, brandishing a massive bayoneted rifle. She lands with a powerful impact, kicking up dust as she prepares her decisive strike. In a flash, she lunges forward, driving her weapon straight through the charging Gurita's jaw. The force of the blow is so immense it completely tears the monster's upper body apart. She stands over her kill, a silent and deadly warrior who just stole the show. The creature's life fades, its head collapsing into the field of red flowers. The blue-skinned warrior retracts her helmet, exhaling a frosty breath of victory. The soldier who was about to fight the beast can only stand there, weapon lowered in disbelief. He turns to his teammate, silently fuming that she just poached the kill he had lined up. The blue-skinned warrior shrugs nonchalantly after her impressive takedown. The commander reminds Langet of their prior agreement regarding close combat training. Langet appears remorseful for stealing the kill. The commander gives Youngsoo new orders to search for the Atalante alone. Youngsoo accepts the mission and prepares to depart. Youngsoo contemplates the situation as the commander and Langet watch him leave. Youngsoo wonders if Langet is being reprimanded. Youngsoo arrives at what appears to be a storage compartment. He identifies the area as equipment and personal belongings storage. He searches for the black box, believing it to be near the airlock. His search leads him to a wall-mounted voice recorder, a potential source of answers. Wasting no time, he smashes the protective glass with his armored fist. He retrieves the recording device, his mission to find the black box seemingly complete. Finding a place to sit, he prepares to listen to the recovered data. He activates the device, initiating the playback of its final moments. An automated voice from the past states its protocol is clear. The crew's survival is paramount. The recording reveals a flashback of a crewmate arguing that Youngsoo needs this equipment to survive. Youngsoo listens intently, identifying a recorded conversation between a man named Dean and an AI. He starts to connect the dots, wondering if Dean was the one who helped him escape. The recording continues, showing Dean's desperate plea against the AI's unyielding protocol. The AI coldly orders Dean to return to the escape pod, its protocol absolute. Dean, filled with defiance, rejects the AI's command, ending the discussion on his own terms. The recording ends, leaving Youngsoo with an image of his past self, moments before being sent to safety. He's left questioning the fate of Dean, the seed bank, and the rest of the crew. Staring into the cavernous storage bay, he realizes his guitar's survival was no accident. He decides to investigate the open containers first, hoping to find more clues. Suddenly, Langet's voice echoes from above, offering him help with his search. She tells him to stand back as she prepares to send down some potentially useful equipment. A cascade of storage crates tumbles down from the upper gantries to the floor below. Langet lands beside him, asking if he found anything usable among the items she dropped. Youngsoo reports that he's found the black box and some weapons among the debris. He also uncovers a few personal items, one of which stirs old memories. The item is a journal, belonging to the very same Dean Daniels who saved him. Langet tells him to take a break, offering to examine the recovered items herself. She takes a seat atop their vehicle, beginning her review of the salvaged gear. She opens the journal, reading an entry about Youngsoo's first day and his love for music. The words paint a picture of the past, giving her a new perspective on her stoic companion. The journal triggers a flashback to a younger, more somber Youngsoo in his military uniform. His name is called, and he looks up to see who is addressing him. He stands at attention, saluting a superior officer before his fateful mission began. The officer returns the salute, accompanied by a man in a suit. Back in the present, Langet peeks over Youngsoo's shoulder as he reads Dean's journal. She asks what it says, and the entry reveals Dean's selection for the Arcadia mission. Dean's journal recounts his first meeting with Youngsoo, where he mistakenly assumed they were of equal rank. Youngsoo reads Dean's private thoughts, where he was called a rude name for his stoic silence. He pauses his reading, lost in the memory of that day. Langet, finding the story amusing, asks to inspect the other salvaged items. The flashback returns to a younger, decorated Youngsoo standing at attention. His superior officer acknowledges his salute, a civilian standing by his side. The officer formally greets Lieutenant Youngsoo, initiating their fateful briefing. The civilian introduces himself as Alex Chung, a recent transfer to the Joint Space Exploration Headquarters. His military companion is identified as Personnel Staff Officer Connor Callahan of the same headquarters. A younger Youngsoo, a logistics officer at the time, formally presents himself to the two men. Seated across from him, the interviewers prepare to begin their assessment without delay. Callahan starts the interrogation by questioning Youngsoo's textbook reason for enlisting in the military. The officer points his pen accusingly, seeking confirmation on the patriotic answer. Youngsoo affirms his statement with unwavering confidence, maintaining his military bearing. Callahan then probes Youngsoo's motive for joining the dangerous off-world mission. The young officer once again confirms his idealistic yet vague written response. Holding up the file, Callahan cynically asks if a chatbot wrote these perfectly generic answers for him. Callahan cuts through the pretense, demanding complete honesty for the remainder of the interview. Alex Chung chimes in, clarifying that this is also a psychological evaluation. Chung encourages Youngsoo to share his true thoughts, assuring him his past contributions are recognized. Understanding the new terms, Youngsoo prepares to give his real answers. He bluntly states his true motivation for enlisting was for college tuition and citizenship. He then explains his desire to join the mission stemmed from a genuine wish to explore a new world. As Callahan jots down notes, Youngsoo adds that his combat experience would be a valuable asset. The officer then pivots to a deeply personal question, linking his family's tragic death to his financial struggles. Youngsoo stoically confirms that this painful assessment is correct. Callahan presses on, probing the emotional impact of such a devastating loss. Youngsoo reveals his financial situation was so dire he could barely afford his boarding house. Callahan points to his file, accusing him of associating with unsavory characters to survive. Unfazed, Youngsoo questions the source of their surprisingly detailed background check. The officer coldly informs him they interviewed everyone from his past. Youngsoo admits to flipping electronics but denies ever resorting to threats or theft. He clarifies that he left that life behind after being taken in by the Martinez family. Callahan glances at a photo in the file, acknowledging this part of Youngsoo's history. The officer then pivots the conversation to Youngsoo's combat deployment in Kazakhstan. Alex Chung chimes in, commending Youngsoo's exceptional performance during a sudden ambush. Callahan cuts to the chase, demanding a full account of his combat experience. Youngsoo recounts the objective of his past mission, to retrieve a meteorite from the Kazakh desert. He explains the meteorite's $60 million value made it a prime target for an armed group. A flashback shows him driving a truck through a hail of gunfire, luring the enemy into a trap. Callahan dryly notes that he's already heard a more theatrical version of this account from Alex Chung. The officer observes a pattern of Youngsoo seeking promotion and growth in the wake of hardship. Youngsoo agrees, explaining that surviving major events gives him the courage to face new challenges. Callahan's questioning turns sharp, suggesting these challenges are just an escape from trauma. The accusation hangs in the air, striking a chord with the otherwise unflappable Youngsoo. Callahan reframes Youngsoo's history, calling him a lucky escapist rather than a courageous soldier. The officer coldly connects the dots, enlisting after his parents' deaths, getting commissioned after his comrades fell, and now fleeing a doomed Earth. Youngsoo calmly admits that he has often faced moments where he wanted to give up. He explains that in those moments, his only choices were to either break down or endure. The young officer states that these were the only two options ever available to him. He shares his core belief that by choosing to endure, circumstances will eventually improve. Callahan pivots again, noting that Youngsoo has designated Camila Martinez as his pension recipient. Youngsoo is then instructed to sign a document confirming the details for his beneficiary. He reads the form, learning that all information from this mission will be classified as top secret. Looking up from the paperwork, he directly asks the interviewers if he has passed their test. Callahan concedes their questions were harsh, explaining it was necessary to see if his weaknesses were actually strengths. In response, they slide him the official top-secret file for Project Arcadia. The file reveals the mission's name, Arcadia Mission, along with a schematic of a massive space habitat. Youngsoo is instructed to review the contents of the file, which will dictate his future. Callahan informs him of his new role as Maintenance Section Chief 1 for the mission. He learns that upon arrival at the off-world headquarters, he'll be promoted to the rank of Major. However, until he officially boards the spacecraft, he is to consider himself a candidate in training. Surprised, Youngsoo admits he expected them to select a seasoned astronaut, not a logistics officer. Alex Chung clarifies they prioritize strong survival skills, as most of the journey will be spent in hibernation. Callahan confirms that Youngsoo's extensive combat experience was the decisive factor in his selection. With the interview concluded, the two men prepare to leave, informing Youngsoo that his transport is ready. They wish him a successful mission, officially marking the end of his evaluation and the beginning of his new life. As they leave, Callahan turns back to ask Youngsoo about his personal habits. Youngsoo confirms he quit drinking, but still smokes occasionally after training. The officer suggests they have just enough time for a cigarette before he departs. With a crisp salute, Youngsoo formally bids farewell to his interviewers. A new soldier then steps forward, addressing him by his full name and rank. Two heavily armed guards in yellow parkas announce they will be his escort. They lead him from the facility, his boots marking the first steps of his new life. Outside, a private jet waits for him on a snowy, isolated airfield. Youngsoo stands with his escort, taking in the sight of his transport. The soldier offers him a cigarette, a quiet moment before the journey begins. Youngsoo politely declines the offer, holding up a hand to refuse the cigarette. The guard clarifies that he's relaying a message directly from the personnel staff officer. He's then ominously informed that this will be the very last cigarette of his life. Despite the chilling warning, Youngsoo calmly takes one from the pack. His escort flicks a lighter, offering him a flame for his final smoke. Youngsoo looks up at the falling snow, seemingly unconcerned by the grim message. He remarks on the unseasonable cold for July as he and his guards approach the jet. The open door of the private aircraft waits, an invitation to his new destiny. With his bag slung over his shoulder, Youngsoo confidently steps aboard the plane. He casts one last determined look back before fully entering the aircraft. Inside the jet, a guitar case with a lightning bolt sticker rests against a plush, empty seat. As Youngsoo boards, another officer cheerfully greets him, mistaking him for a musician. The unexpected welcome leaves the new arrival visibly puzzled. The man introduces himself as Dean Daniels, his new deputy chief, offering a friendly partnership. Youngsoo internally notes that Dean is his subordinate, feeling awkward about the man's forwardness. Their flight concludes at a heavily fortified, restricted military installation, blanketed in snow. A group of mission personnel, including Dean, awaits the new arrivals inside the base. Dean's expression shifts as he spots the person he was waiting for. Youngsoo is formally announced as he enters the room, carrying his personal effects. His uniform now bears the gold oak leaf of a major, confirming his promised promotion. Dean Daniels snaps a crisp, enthusiastic salute to his new superior. The scene cuts to a desolate, snowy landscape where a single blade of grass grows. A giraffe's mouth gently plucks the lonely sprout from the frozen ground. The bizarre vision expands, showing the giraffe grazing in a ruined city next to a fallen person. It stands tall amidst crumbling skyscrapers as rockets streak across the sky, heralding a new era. The animal calmly chews, a serene figure in a world undergoing a massive transformation. This vision of the future reveals a massive launch complex, with countless rockets prepared for departure. Back in the present, Youngsoo walks past his new team, carrying a box of his personal items. He sets the box down on a table, ready to unpack and begin his duties. Dean formally greets him again with another salute, eager to start their work together. Youngsoo formally introduces himself to his new team, ready to take command. Wasting no time, he begins his first briefing, directing the personnel to take their seats. He initiates a roll call, ordering everyone to raise their hands for a head count. Youngsoo lays out the procedure, instructing them to count off in sequence from right to left. The soldiers begin the count one by one, following their new chief's orders. The head count continues down the line, eventually reaching his new deputy, Dean Daniels. Dean gives a knowing look, recalling their brief encounter on the plane. Youngsoo acknowledges their shared flight and immediately puts Dean to work distributing documents. Eager to please, Dean quickly carries out his first order, handing out folders to the team. The final soldier calls out his number, officially completing the head count for Maintenance Section 1. The soldier reports a total of 32 personnel, and Youngsoo acknowledges his help. Youngsoo immediately begins the briefing on the alien planet exploration plan, the Arcadia mission. He informs the team of the grueling one-year training period, where failure means instant dismissal. The new chief stresses that this joint international operation is classified as top secret. He adds a stark warning that any information leaks will be investigated by the CIA. Dean's expression turns serious as he absorbs the weight of their new responsibilities. Youngsoo quickly moves past the mission's grim premise, Earth's collapse from a climate crisis. He shifts to logistics, announcing a physical examination for the next morning. The soldiers are instructed to fast after 9 o'clock in preparation for an endoscopy. With the initial briefing complete, Youngsoo announces that the main training will begin the day after tomorrow. Youngsoo reveals the first phase of their training is extreme physical conditioning. The ultimate goal is to develop bodies capable of hibernation through a brutal weightlifting program. He explains they must strategically gain mass, becoming healthily overweight to endure the journey. In the gym, Youngsoo spots Dean, pushing his subordinate to the breaking point during a heavy squat. As Dean racks the weight, exhausted, Youngsoo tries to call it a day and move on to theory. But Dean, catching his breath, informs his superior that there's still one set left to do. Youngsoo is taken aback, believing he had already completed all 10 of his required sets. In a surprising role reversal, Dean calmly corrects his chief, clarifying that Youngsoo is the one with unfinished business. Dean gives him a challenging stare, silently reminding him that skipping leg day is not an option. Later, Youngsoo addresses the team again, praising their hard work before introducing the next topic, the Atalante. A stern instructor announces the beginning of their grueling theory classes. The team is immediately hit with a pop quiz, much to their collective dismay. One soldier's eyes narrow with a spark of desperate inspiration. Dean, however, is startled when his neighbor tries to get his attention. The soldier discreetly turns around, attempting to cheat off Dean's paper. Annoyed, Dean vaguely gestures at his paper, offering no real help. The desperate soldier squints, unable to decipher Dean's cryptic signal. Their clumsy attempt at cheating is immediately thwarted by the watchful instructor. Youngsoo then shifts topics, announcing the next phase, practical training. He reveals they'll be working on a full-scale model of the Atalante, as Dean listens with rapt attention. Youngsoo explains that each crew member will have different missions based on their hibernation schedule. He then announces the next phase of training, which will prepare them for their arrival on the alien planet. The first practical lesson is terraforming, where soldiers learn to cultivate crops under a robot's watchful eye. One soldier proudly shows off a bumper crop of potatoes, eager for his chief's approval. Youngsoo, however, looks less than thrilled with the grueling manual labor of farming. He questions the absence of coffee in their training, earning a sarcastic comeback from a fellow crewman. The briefing moves on to the next critical piece of equipment, their mission-specific spacesuit. In the hangar, engineers help a soldier into the suit, which shares standard life support functions. However, this model boasts a powerful integrated exoskeleton for use on the planet's surface. Youngsoo confirms their suspicions, describing the gear as a real-life sci-fi power suit. The team begins combat training in their new power suits, preparing for encounters with hypothetical alien life. Already looking for a way out, Youngsoo turns to Dean with a brilliant yet lazy idea. He wonders aloud if they could just use a mortar to bypass all this tedious physical training. Dean gives him a deadpan stare as Youngsoo questions the lack of heavy explosives on their mission manifest. Unfortunately for him, an instructor overhears and demands the name of the soldier, suggesting shortcuts. The instructor promptly deducts points from Youngsoo's evaluation for his poor adaptability. He then sarcastically comments that a famous space dog would have shown more aptitude. Youngsoo is completely baffled by the reference, having no idea who Laika is. As Dean explains the historical reference, Youngsoo's face falls in utter embarrassment. Dean looks at his superior with pity, expressing his growing concern over the chief's performance scores. Dean suggests they hit the books after their workout, much to Youngsoo's utter despair. Back in uniform, Youngsoo announces the final and most critical phase of their preparation, hibernation training. He warns the crew that this next stage is so perilous it requires them to sign a special consent form. The chief snaps his fingers, explaining that a continuous cycle of data collection is about to begin. He introduces a humanoid robot that will shadow each of them to gather personal information. The machine, designated Aleph version 1, is revealed with its single glowing red optic. This AI, belonging to the Atalante, will assist them during every phase of their training. With the announcements over, Youngsoo instructs the team to line up and receive their new smartphones. He begins the distribution process, asking for each soldier's name, starting with Ryan Curtis. Seeing his chief overwhelmed, Dean steps in to help manage the roster and hand out the equipment. The next soldier in line, Chase Bennington, steps up to receive his device. While Dean checks the roster, Chase formally introduces himself as a member of the Navy. Next up is Jocelyn Yates, who introduces herself with a smile before promptly inquiring about the cafeteria. The Aleph unit immediately offers to guide her, and Youngsoo directs her to follow the robot. With her new phone in hand, Jocelyn happily follows her robotic guide out of the briefing room. Once the distribution is complete, Dean turns to his chief and apologizes for not recognizing him on the plane. Youngsoo casually dismisses the formality, telling his new subordinate not to worry about it. Unfazed by the casual response, Dean extends his hand for a formal handshake. He then pledges his unwavering support to Youngsoo until the very end of their mission. Youngsoo accepts the handshake with a subtle, confident smile, acknowledging his subordinate's vow. Youngsoo and Dean seal their new partnership with a handshake, agreeing to give the mission their all. The perspective shifts to a robot's diary, chronicling the first day of training and Youngsoo's unusual methods for raising spirits. In a sudden flash forward, a lone astronaut on an alien planet recalls how Dean ultimately fulfilled his promise. The astronaut turns to find a blue-skinned woman sleeping outside and questions her presence. A blue-skinned man, resembling a future Youngsoo, gently wakes the woman, telling her to rest inside their vehicle. The woman, Langet, looks up sheepishly and agrees to move as her companion watches over her. The astronaut then approaches the alien Youngsoo, asking if he noticed anything unusual during his watch. With his shift over, Youngsoo decides to get some sleep, leaving the astronaut to stand guard. The astronaut watches as Youngsoo and Langet settle into the vehicle for the night, bidding them a silent farewell. His thoughts drift to a past comrade he called Rockstar, acknowledging that their help is the reason he's still alive. The astronaut Ingress sits alone, mourning the loss of his comrade Dean. The narrative snaps back to Youngsoo, who wakes with a start from a strange dream. The scene shifts to the alien base, where a weather balloon floats high above the red landscape. A small, rabbit-eared robot on the rooftop initiates a morning communications check. Langet, having just finished her night watch, responds to the robot's broadcast from the balloon. When asked about the others, she agrees to check if the rest of the crew is awake. A voice confirms they're awake, and Langet identifies the speaker as Ingress. The robot then sends a powerful wake-up call directly to a sleeping Youngsoo, startling him from his bed. The sudden broadcast also jolts the blue-skinned future Youngsoo, who clutches his chest in surprise. With everyone now accounted for, the robot announces the beginning of their morning quiz. The robot begins its quiz with Langet, who correctly translates a phrase about team coordination. Pleased with her answer, Langet lets out a quiet, satisfied laugh while holding her helmet. Next, Ingress struggles to translate a reconnaissance command, but the robot still commends his effort. The small robot then turns its attention to the final participant, calling out for Youngsoo. Still in bed, Youngsoo is baffled as the robot asks him to translate a complex neurological term into the alien language. He sits up, disoriented and questioning his own hearing, while the robot insists he complete the task. The machine explains that understanding human biology is a crucial starting point for conversation. Youngsoo concentrates, desperately trying to piece together the difficult translation. After quickly admitting defeat, the robot gives him a much simpler phrase to translate instead. Completely drained, Youngsoo offers a hilariously incorrect and blunt response. The robot cheerfully confirms his translation means, "I am a fool." Amused by the quiz, the future Youngsoo asks if he can finally get some rest. The scene shifts to a large weather balloon floating high in the sky. The balloon drifts gently on the wind, carrying its passengers on their journey. Ingress and Langet enjoy a drink while traveling over a vast field of red alien flora. Holding a strange rock, Ingress asks when they will arrive at their destination. Langet looks up from her position in the basket, a playful look on her face. She cheekily responds by repeating the alien phrase for "I am a fool," teasing him. Ingress later informs Youngsoo that they should arrive around sunset. Contemplating their situation, Ingress quietly repeats the foolish phrase to himself. Langet erupts in laughter at Youngsoo's blunder, while her companion looks on with concern. Back in the present, the crew begins to untie their equipment, preparing to move out. Youngsoo confirms that once the communication balloon is stowed, they can finally leave. In the future, his blue-skinned counterpart gives the solemn command for the team to depart. Their armored vehicle rumbles to life, setting off across the vast red plains. From inside, Langet watches the alien landscape blur past her window. She sits quietly in the transport while Ingress begins a routine check of their gear. Ingress carefully examines his rifle, ensuring it's ready for whatever lies ahead. From the driver's seat, the future Youngsoo inquires about the status of their weaponry. Ingress reports the weapons appear functional, but notes they still need to be powered up for a full check. The future Youngsoo turns from the driver's seat, inquiring about the specifics of their weaponry. Ingress explains their arsenal consists of rapid-fire railguns and versatile plasma cutters. A sly grin crosses Youngsoo's face as he considers the potential uses for such a powerful tool. Ingress playfully accuses Youngsoo of already plotting his next modification project. Changing the subject, Ingress rummages through a box of personal items, recalling he packed a guitar for the mission. He pulls out a set of comic books, wondering which of their comrades brought them along. Ingress asks Langet about the comics, and she admits to having already read through them. He questions her about reading them during her watch and asks for a translation, admitting the language was unfamiliar. The comic book page reveals a classic manga style, complete with Japanese dialogue bubbles. Langet calmly informs the surprised Ingress that the text is written in Japanese. Ingress clarifies that unlike her world, Earth has a multitude of languages. Langet explains the comic is a school story, depicting students enjoying snacks together. The concept of school is entirely new to her, prompting a curious question. He defines it as a place for learning and asks how her people educate their young. Langet reveals her isolated past, having learned everything from her comrades within a bunker. The simple images in the book stir a deep longing within her to experience school life. Ingress understands, admitting the joy in the pictures is clear even if the words are not. He feels a pang of sadness for her, realizing she never had a normal childhood with friends. Ingress then finds himself wondering what kind of student she would have become. He pictures two contrasting versions, a perfect model student or one who took a much darker path. In his mind, he pictures a delinquent version of Langet in a school uniform, wielding a bat. Snapping out of it, Ingress dismisses both his daydreams as strange, leaving Langet confused. She then turns the question on him, asking if his own school days were fun. Ingress quietly confirms he went to school, but his expression hints at a difficult past. A flashback begins showing a younger masked Ingress screaming with intense rage. The memory continues with a bruised and bloodied Ingress looking defiant after a fight. He is then seen desperately trying to treat a severe wound on someone else's leg. The scene reveals he's providing first aid to an injured security guard on the ground. The older man grits his teeth in pain as the young Ingress tends to his injury. Ingress's younger self looks on with a stressed and worried expression, his school memories clearly traumatic. Wiping blood from his lip, a younger Ingress looks on in horror as sparks fly around him. His memory focuses on a mysterious girl with cat ear headphones, surrounded by a fiery energy. The intense, fiery chaos is reflected in his terrified, sweat-drenched eyes. The flashback then shifts to a somber moment, showing him holding hands with a woman in a rainy cemetery. A closer view reveals their clasped hands and the anime character on his shirt, a stark contrast to the grim setting. His expression is one of profound loss as the rain pours down around him. Snapping back to the present, he unconvincingly tells Langet that his school days were good. He quickly backtracks, admitting to a curious Langet that school wasn't always a fun place. Changing the subject once more, he calls out her name to draw her attention. Looking back at the comic, he points to a spiky-haired character and playfully tells her it looks just like her. Ingress recalls a panel from the comic, showing a cheerful schoolgirl named Amani happily holding a cat. Langet beams, pointing out that their names share a similar heavenly meaning, creating an instant connection. She asks him to read the rest to her later, prompting Ingress to agree and consider learning the language himself. The comic's cat-loving character sparks a memory for Langet, who turns to retrieve something from her belongings. With a flourish, she proudly presents a small, charming cat-shaped trinket she brought on the mission. Ingress accepts the small gift, a hint of warmth in his eyes as he examines its simple, cute design. As their transport nears a massive structure, Langet playfully compares its distant silhouette to a cat. The armored vehicle speeds across the final stretch, kicking up red flora as it approaches the waterbound facility. The team gazes forward in unison, their long journey across the alien plains finally at its end. Their destination is revealed, a heavily fortified island serving as a low-altitude air defense base. Ingress's gaze hardens as he spots a major obstacle ahead. Their path is cut off. The bridge to the island fortress is completely destroyed. Youngsoo explains the path is simply submerged due to the planet's tide, prompting Ingress to ask about the changing water levels. He confirms the path will reappear at dawn, suggesting they use the downtime for maintenance. Disembarking onto a nearby platform, Youngsoo immediately gets to work on a control console. As Youngsoo works, Ingress questions him about the likely cause of the bridge's destruction. Youngsoo confidently deduces that a meteor strike is the most probable cause. He reveals a glowing power source, explaining the base's anti-meteor defense system had been disabled. To their relief, he confirms the facility is still running on emergency power. Ingress asks if the radar was working, but Youngsoo clarifies it means the low-altitude satellite data is stored right there. Ingress hopes their long journey to the desolate base will yield some useful intel. High above the crimson landscape, a lone communication balloon keeps watch over their position. With their initial assessment complete, Ingress decides it's time to report to their contact, Hiji. Langet opens a channel, informing Hiji that they have successfully arrived at the target location. From the balloon, Hiji requests a status update, and Langet reports the extensive damage to the base's entrance. She confirms the facility is eerily empty, with no sign of its commander, but hopes to find clues at dawn. Heiji signs off with a word of caution, leaving Langet to watch the distant communication relay. After checking the vehicle's power, Youngsoo reaffirms their plan to search the main island in the morning. Langet questions Ingress about any signs of the Gurita, and he reports the power plant area is clear. Yet a grim look crosses his face as he admits to sensing a faint, unsettling presence nearby. Langet theorizes that the cloudy sky might be interfering with Ingress's ability to track the pheromones. Without warning, a sudden heavy downpour begins to soak the alien landscape. Ingress quickly instructs the team to get inside and take cover from the rain. The storm intensifies, lashing against the island base as the water level rises dramatically. A closer view shows the turbulent water completely swallowing the path to the facility. From inside their transport, Youngsoo peers out at the rain-swept, isolated fortress. Ingress pulls up a holographic map, confirming their position at the now impassable bridge. He then points out the path they will take to the main island once the tide recedes at dawn. Youngsoo turns to Ingress, seriously asking him to elaborate on his earlier claim about a Gurita being nearby. Ingress explains that he did sense Gurita pheromones but suspects the trace is old because it's so faint. Youngsoo presses Ingress on whether Gurita could be on the island, but Ingress remains uncertain. Ingress turns away, grimly acknowledging they might have to fight once they reach the main facility. Their tense conversation is cut short as Langet announces she has found some food. She holds up a box of combat rations, asking if the simple meal will suffice for the team. Taking a ration, Ingress asks Langet if she discovered anything out of the ordinary in the warehouse. Langet confirms the warehouse was a mess, and more alarmingly, that she also sensed Gurita pheromones inside. Youngsoo questions how a large Gurita could fit, prompting Ingress to suggest it might be a smaller variant. Ingress attempts to reassure the team, stating that whatever was there is gone now. After Ingress struggles to eat a ration bar, Youngsoo advises him to break it up with warm water. The scene shifts to a crackling fireplace, indicating the team has settled in for the night. Ingress cautiously questions the quality of their rations as the team eats by the fire. Langet savors the simple meal, clearly relieved to be eating something other than foraged mushrooms. Youngsoo demonstrates a culinary hack, combining the rations with mushroom crackers to improve their taste. Ingress reminds them to rest up, stressing the importance of an early start before dawn. Hours later, the relentless storm continues to rage as the sky remains dark. Ingress checks in with Langet, who confirms her heavy weapon, the Teranaga, is fully charged and ready for action. He then turns to Youngsoo, who reports that his own weapon, the Shiranaga, is also prepped and loaded. With their gear checked, Ingress gives the order for the team to mount up in their transport. The armored vehicle lurches forward, beginning its advance across the now submerged path. The tide has finally receded just enough, allowing their vehicle to approach the broken bridge under the cover of the storm. The vehicle's headlights cut through the stormy night as it navigates the treacherous, waterlogged causeway. Youngsoo voices his anxiety about passing under the structurally compromised bridge, fearing a total collapse. He asks Ingress about Gurita pheromones, but Ingress confirms the torrential rain makes any scent impossible to track. Suddenly, Langet calls out from her post, reporting a large obstruction blocking their path. A massive pile of rubble sits in their way, prompting Youngsoo to wonder if they can bypass it through the mudflats. Ingress dismisses the detour, deciding they'll clear the debris themselves and assigning Langet to watch for threats from the turret. Stepping out into the downpour, Ingress and Youngsoo grab heavy tools to begin the manual labor. Youngsoo brings a sledgehammer down with force, shattering a large chunk of the concrete barrier. The two work in tandem, smashing and shoveling the rubble to clear a path for their vehicle. Pausing his work, Youngsoo notes the suspicious placement of the debris, questioning if it truly fell from the bridge. Ingress suddenly tells Youngsoo to look ahead, sensing a new threat. A flash of lightning illuminates a lone, hostile figure standing ominously on the bridge. Before they can process the new threat, Langet warns of multiple enemies approaching from behind. She reports from the turret that dozens of small variant Gurita are swarming them. The vehicle's turret fires, taking down one of the creatures as the horde charges forward. Youngsoo volunteers to continue clearing the debris, asking Ingress to provide covering fire. As Ingress repositions, a Gurita lunges from the water, launching a surprise attack. Langet voices her stress, feeling overwhelmed by the chaotic multi-front battle. A closer look reveals the menacing, crab-like Gurita advancing relentlessly through the storm. Youngsoo meets a pouncing Gurita head-on, swinging his sledgehammer with brutal force. Youngsoo stands his ground, bracing for the airborne Gurita's ferocious attack. He smashes the creature out of the air with a powerful swing of his sledgehammer. From the turret, Langet frantically signals for Youngsoo to retreat to the vehicle. Youngsoo sprints for safety as the Gurita horde closes in from all sides. He barely manages to leap onto the moving transport, narrowly escaping a pursuing creature. Clinging to the vehicle's side, Youngsoo finds himself surrounded by the swarming monsters. After climbing atop the transport, he spots another wave of enemies blocking their path ahead. A new pack of Gurita charges directly towards them, confirming a coordinated ambush. Leaping into action, Youngsoo brings his weapon down, dispatching a creature blocking the transport. He pauses, examining the strange purple substance splattered onto his gauntlet from the kill. A mysterious light flashes from the distant bridge, cutting through the storm. The team spots a lone figure standing on the bridge, the source of the signal. The light flashes again, this time in a clear, deliberate pattern. Ingress recognizes the flashes as Morse code and begins to decipher the message. He quickly instructs Langet to switch their radio frequency to a new channel. Ingress then directs her to open the side cover of his helmet's communication unit. Langet carefully adjusts his helmet, trying to get a clearer signal. Ingress attempts to tune the radio, but the storm's interference only produces crackling static. Despite the poor connection, they manage to catch fragments of a voice through the noise. As the light continues to flash, a broken message about personnel and a location begins to emerge from the static. The mysterious figure on the bridge announces a retransmission due to the poor signal quality. Ingress urgently confirms he can hear them now and tells them to proceed with their message. The figure, a masked individual with glowing red eyes, asks if they are crew members from the Atalante. She then formally requests they state their affiliation, rank, and code name for identification. Youngsoo calls out to the figure, asking if Aleph can provide them with fire support. Aleph confirms she can assist and asks for confirmation to engage the creatures swarming the vehicle. Ingress immediately gives the affirmative, designating the Gurita as hostile targets. Aleph's glowing eye narrows as she locks onto the enemy horde with deadly precision. The heat sinks on her advanced rifle flare open as the weapon powers up for a shot. From her perch on the bridge, Aleph unleashes a powerful blast of energy at the monsters below. The energy beam strikes true, obliterating a Gurita in a flash of purple and yellow light. Impressed by the shot, Ingress radios their destination, the island fortress land entrance. He confirms their target is a dark, foreboding tunnel entrance built into the island's side. Aleph confirms the location, revealing it was part of her prior reconnaissance mission. While battling another creature, Ingress requests a resupply of weapon batteries at the rendezvous point. Youngsoo specifies their needs while simultaneously dispatching another Gurita with his blades. Aleph calmly confirms the order and asks to verify the drop-off at the entrance passage. Ingress gives the final go-ahead, and Aleph signs off, promising to meet them at the location. A confused Langet asks about their mysterious ally, and Ingress reveals it's Aleph, the AI from the Atalante. He explains she'll provide support at the fortress as their transport barrels toward the entrance, monsters still in hot pursuit. Aleph radios in, confirming she's in position at the rendezvous and requesting enemy intel. Youngsoo provides a quick briefing, identifying the creatures as Gurita with a vertebrate-like anatomy. He warns her about the different sizes of Gurita, just as another small one climbs onto the transport. While Youngsoo is distracted, the creature lunges, catching him completely off guard. The Gurita's powerful jaws clamp down hard on Youngsoo's shoulder armor. Overwhelmed by the constant attacks, Youngsoo expresses his immense frustration. He retaliates by forcefully slamming the creature against the vehicle's metal frame. Langet shouts his name in alarm, seeing him struggle against the monster. She reaches down from the turret, grabbing his arm to steady him. Just as she offers aid, a new weapon-wielding Gurita ambushes them from behind. Ingress shouts his approval as Langet successfully deals with the new threat from behind. From the driver's seat, Langet warns the team to brace themselves for a sharp, evasive turn. Ingress radios their position to Aleph, announcing they are about to enter the rendezvous point. From her position inside the tunnel, Aleph takes aim, ready to provide covering fire for the incoming transport. The AI confirms she has weapons ready for Youngsoo once he's safely inside. Aleph requests Youngsoo's biometric data to authorize the weapon transfer while fending off a creature. Ingress lays out the plan, ordering Youngsoo to grab the supplies while he and Aleph hold the line. Youngsoo stumbles towards Aleph, clearly exhausted from the relentless battle. A red light flashes across Youngsoo's eye as the biometric identification process begins. Aleph's optical sensor completes the iris scan, officially verifying his identity for the resupply. With the scan complete, Aleph presents Youngsoo with a new rifle, demanding he confirm its serial number for the record. The AI coolly reminds him that for her, protocol is more important than anything. Her primary directive flashes in her mind, to protect the lives of the crew at all costs. As a new wave of Gurita charges, Aleph begins to cite a specific Arcadia mission protocol. She drops into a combat stance, her weapon ready, as she continues to state the protocol's command. The directive concludes that all hostile entities will be neutralized, a promise she makes as she leaps at the horde. With glowing red eyes and deadly focus, she carves a path through the enemy ranks. She lands gracefully in a crouch, completely surrounded by the swarming Gurita. In a flash of movement, every creature around her is dispatched, leaving her standing alone in the aftermath. The respite is short-lived as an even larger wave of monsters emerges from the darkness. Ingress observes that Alep's assault has successfully thinned the enemy ranks. Standing over a fallen monster, Alef orders Youngsoo to fall back to safety. The AI declares she will remain behind to clean up the remaining hostiles before rejoining the group. Ingress cautions her against overextending, and she calmly acknowledges his command. Meanwhile, two other crew members in red and white suits emerge from deeper within the tunnel. The man in red, Ingress, turns in surprise as Youngsoo finally makes it inside. Youngsoo waves to his teammates, announcing his safe arrival, and that Alef is right behind him. When asked about the robot, Youngsoo confirms her identity as the Atalante's administrator AI. He explains her core purpose is to ensure the crew's survival in any environment. Outside, a battle-worn Alef pauses for a moment, her mask stained from the intense fight. She stands tall over a pile of vanquished monsters, her mission far from over. Undaunted, she turns to face the next wave of creatures emerging from the gloom. A particularly vicious Garita lunges at her, but the AI's expression remains cold and unfazed. In a blur of motion, she unleashes a devastating slash, cutting down the charging creature. Her face is stained from the fight, but her glowing red eye signals her unyielding resolve. From inside the passage, Youngsoo senses the final approach and alerts the others. In response, Ingress moves to a large lever, ready to seal the massive door. Youngsoo anxiously calls out to the entrance, hoping Alef has made it inside in time. The massive blast door begins to shut, plunging the tunnel into darkness. Appearing just in the nick of time, Alef reports that she has successfully crippled the enemy's momentum. Wiping the remnants of battle from her face, Alef's expression remains unnervingly calm. Youngsoo commends her performance, prompting the AI to inquire about the two unfamiliar figures. He introduces them as Langit and Ingress, identifying their species as Boomians. With a glint in her optical sensor, Alef requests that Youngsoo act as her translator. Before Youngsoo can fully agree, the AI abruptly moves past him with sudden purpose. In a shocking move, she draws her blade and levels it directly at Ingress's throat. Youngsoo shouts in alarm, but Alef simply demands he relay her message to the Boomian. The AI poses a chilling question, wanting to know if his people were responsible for destroying the Atalante. Her accusation leaves Youngsoo completely speechless and horrified. Ingress, however, meets her gaze without hesitation and confirms her suspicion.